I'm Chad, and you're watching Squarebody Stuff. Hey, welcome back to the channel, everybody. We're going to be working on Squeaky once again. Surprise, surprise. We've got a couple things we want to do to him before we hit the Tailgate Throwdown. Now, Tailgate Throwdown is an event that all-truck drag race event that Ryan Wing and I and a couple other guys are putting together down in Newport, Arkansas at Newport Raceway. Scott down there at Newport has set us up great with this, with the track for the whole weekend. We're expecting to have probably close to 100 trucks coming from Texas. I think there's some even from either further out west in Texas. Got a guy hopefully coming from Florida. Florida's getting hammered by some hurricanes right now. He's trying to hunker down and bunker down and get ready for that. So Godspeed to you, Jonathan Morgan. Hang in there, and anybody else that might be in that area, hang in there. Everything's gonna be all right. Just take care of yourselves, guys. But I got a couple more things I want to do to the truck before we hit the drag strip again. I haven't been able to do any testing at my local strip. They've had some big events going on, so no testing tunes, and it's been kind of taking a little bit of break from stuff. Go back and watch my last few videos of some stuff we have got done on the truck recently. I've got some stuff on my whiteboard yet. That the last two things I want to do before we go down there. All right, so we got all this stuff done in the last few weeks except for the transmission. I decided just to leave the transmission that's in there and not worry about putting this other one. I've got this one on the stand. I haven't done nothing to it, but it's in better shape. But anyways, not worried about transmission. We got shocks all the way around. We got new temp gauge, battery trays fixed, painted the headers, got new guide plates, valve seals on the heads. The next thing I want to do is move the fuel tank and do some spring limbers on the rear springs. I'll show you my fuel tank situation. I've got the factory tank mounted to the side of the bed. Just drilled holes and done all that stuff. It's got -6A in line, run all the way to it, up to the front. So what I want to do is move it crossways back here. It'll give better weight distribution, I think. I don't, get all the weight over there. If I have, of course, I don't run a bunch of fuel at a time, maybe five gallons or a little bit more at a time. So it doesn't add a bunch of extra weight over there, but I don't know. I'm still on the fence on moving it because I'm thinking my 230 pounds up there and this over here kind of maybe balances it out. I don't know, and maybe I should just leave well enough alone for right now and not worry about that and just work on the springs. I'm very bad about making decisions. I've been wanting to move it, but I just don't know. Maybe I'll wait to move it because eventually I'm gonna be moving my battery back to this box back here, and then I can move my fuel tank. Yeah, maybe we'll just do that. Maybe we'll just wait, change a few things at a time because I've already got new shocks. I don't want to go down and Tailgate Throwdown with a whole new, well, not whole new, but completely different setup. I kind of know what the truck is capable of. He runs consistent mid 170s into 60 foot. I know how he reacts. I know that track's gonna be a little bit different, but I don't think it's gonna be much worse than what I'm used to, is at least the 60 foot. I think the prep's going to be close to what I'm used to at my home track on a test and tune day, because it gets pretty slick. It gets, anyhow, I'll make a decision. Let me think about this for a minute. Maybe I'll consult the captain. Let's just go ahead and do it. Why not? I have to get it all unbolted and everything unhooked. Hopefully I've got enough fuel line. I should. It may not be the prettiest. It may have to be draped across a little bit. I gotta find some material to make some uprights to bolt the brackets to, and maybe something to go here. It won't need much. I'll find something. I got a bunch of scrap metal laying around. We'll find something. Let's get this tank unhooked and see what we gotta deal with here. Okay, let's see. This may have more fuel in it than what I thought. Let me get my fuel line loose up front. Don't watch this. This is not pretty. Alright. Now I got her set run up along the bedside. I got it down along the frame rail. I've got plenty to go right here where I'm at. Then again, I might turn it around and I can spin this around and I could go, yeah, let's see what it would look like spinning at 180 degrees. Pretty sure I've had it this way before. So I had, yeah, I think I did have it right here at one time. Because when I first put the tank, moved the tank, I moved it back here temporarily, just kind of ratchet strapped it down. And just left it that way. Then I moved it there because I thought I might like it there because that way I could still use the bed, but I don't ever use the bed. Squeaky, he's a race truck. I got 500 other trucks I could use if I need a truck. I just thought it'd always be neat to keep him usable as a truck. And we might move it. Alright, I've got one of the actual bed rails that was in this bed laying back there, so I'm gonna cut it down, clean it up, and drill some holes in it, weld it to the bed, and then I can mount my fuel tank back here. Filler next is gonna work out great. Everything else is gonna work out great. Just gotta get it mounted up. Something along those lines. Just have to drill a couple holes in it. I'll cut the ends off so I get away from that big hole at the bottom, so I don't mess up trying to weld, because they'll probably burn through that. And yeah, it should work. It's got to work. I guess I could cut a piece to go underneath that way for it to set on, and then weld the bracket to bolt it to, so it's not. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I've got another one of these. I'll do that first to kind of mark it out where I want them, set them in there, weld them in, and then put this piece on upright. Alright, so what I've decided to do is to take the brackets off and flip them around. That way my uprights in the bed are inside. That way I don't have to pick the tank up over and set it down and just make more sense. Because these tanks, another little square body fact, these tanks are ambidextrous. They don't have a left hand and a right hand tank, they just have fuel tanks. You can switch these brackets from one side to the other, depending on which side of the truck you're going to put it on. So I'm going to flip these around, and I've had them off before. They've got anti-seize on them, so I'm not worried about breaking them. Well, knock on wood, I shouldn't break any of these. Hopefully I don't. I should have another bracket around somewhere, a brace strap somewhere, but yeah, we'll get these off here, flip them around. We got to do some fitting up, some mocking up. I've already got the two rails in the truck. I haven't got them tacked in or nothing, just got them sitting in there. That's what gave me the idea. I'm gonna have to lift this tank all the way up over them brackets. Now if I just switch it around, just slide it in, it'd make more sense. And I'm also going to leave them a little bit loose. That way I can move them around a little if I need to, fitting up. Alright, I just got to tidy up my lines, get them secured down the frame rail, and we'll be done with the fuel tank project. And no, I'm not going to paint it. We don't need paint where we're going. It yeah, it just kind of matches the rest of the truck, rusty, crusty, and slow. Done. Alright, so let's have a little discussion about my rear suspension. I've had some comments in the past about what I should do with it and what I need to do with it, and I agree with pretty much most of it. Let me show you what we've got. If you're new here, that way you know what we're dealing with. What I've set up so far, it's not right. It kind of works, it kind of doesn't, but we're just going to try to improve on what we got right now. Alright, first off, these are the factory 8-leaf. We got 7 little leaves and the big main leaf. These are the factory leaf springs for a Big 10 half-ton. And that's what Squeaky was from the factory. These are the original leaf springs. I think I may have replaced 1 or 2 springs on one side or the other because they were broke whenever I got the truck, and I've replaced those. And they're also the long 56-inch. Most of your half-tons will be the shorter, 52-inch springs. But these are long springs. These are basically the light-duty. If you look it up, they're the same thing as the light-duty 1-ton springs or the heavy-duty 3/4-ton springs, or the medium-duty 3/4-ton springs, I guess. But anyways, they're really heavy, and I want to stay with them. And of course, I'm also spring under. When I put this axle in, I went ahead and put the spring under. I've got my pinion angle. I've got about 5 degrees of pinion angle right there, so that's about where it needs to be. I do have brand new shocks. I haven't run the shocks yet. I haven't bent to the track since the new shocks, so that's going to affect some of what we got going on. And let me show you these old shocks. The one on the left rear, which really needs the most control when you're launching, especially on extension, it wasn't doing much. Which I don't know if you can see, the oil is pretty much all blown out. It's got oil leaking out of it. There's not a whole lot of control there. Sometimes it moves a little easier than others, but it wasn't doing much. The one passenger side was a little bit better, but not much. Of course, I really want to go with some better shocks, but we'll work on that later on when the budget allows. Right now, I just needed a little more control than what I had. Now, if you paid attention when I was showing you the springs earlier, you'll also see that I've got these guys. These little, I just cut a piece of 1-inch square tubing, cut it in half-ish, welded in there. So these heavy leaves act as kind of a slapper bar. So, and it does kind of work. Now, and I'll try to post a video of the suspension as it's working and show you what's going on with it. It's pretty rough because we have a really bad issue with a lot of separation back here. Now, you want some separation. You want this axle to have some anti-squat to push down, but this has a lot of anti-squat, way too much. Part of that reason is because this rear shackle hanger I've got. Now, these are 4-wheel drive shackle hangers. This guy right here. When I put this axle in with the spring over or the spring under, I didn't have enough room right here. So my easiest solution I had to get some height back to it was I had these spring hangers just sitting in the side of the shop. They were off an old truck I used to have. For some reason they were in the shop, and that was the easiest solution I had to get some height back to it so I wasn't hitting the frame, so I didn't have to C-notch it. But what that effectively did was reduce my instant center. Or, no, wait a minute, let me see. It raised my instant center, which actually makes this have more anti-squat. Now, I'm not going to go deep into the anti-squat and all the geometry of all that. I have a hard time explaining it. I can understand it in my mind. But there's a lot of videos out there. I can't remember the name of the guy. I've watched several times to kind of get my mind wrapped around it. But there's a lot of videos out there. So just search YouTube on instant center, anti-squat and all that stuff. And there's a lot of information out there that'd be way better than what I could ever explain to you. So I'm not even going to get into that. Now, another thing I like to explain or say is this is the first time I've been trying to set anything up for drag racing. Now, I do come from an off-road background. I've built full chassis, full tube chassis, full vehicles with 4-link setup front and rear, ORI shocks or ORI struts, just all sorts of different things. You know, my Blazer out back, my rock crawler is still leaf sprung. I didn't do a whole bunch of fancy stuff with it. I just made it work. But I have had some experience with setting up suspension for anti-squat and that. But this is the first time I'm doing it with drag racing, so it's not like I don't know anything about it. But this is a little bit different ball game than what I'm used to. Most of the basics apply. But what I need to do in the future is put the two-wheel drive spring hanger back on the rear and actually put the four-wheel drive spring hanger on the front. I just don't have any spare front ones at the moment. Or I could just put the two-wheel drive one on the rear and then just re-drill, just cut the rivets and move this one down where I need it and re-drill it, bolt it, maybe put a brace on the bottom of the frame. We're not doing that right now, just thinking about the future. And that would lower my instant center and actually have less anti-squat. It wouldn't drive the tires into the ground as hard as it does now. Now earlier I said these are the factory springs. The only thing that's not factory with these springs is this guy back here. It had the clamp on the front, but it didn't have the limiter on the rear. So I pulled this limiter off of another set of springs. I put some hose around it to kind of get some of the space out of there. But I don't know if you can see in the video. But whenever this thing unloads, this does its job. The front, from the center to the front, kind of stops. And this will unload. This will come down and stop this, but it only traps the top 5 springs or 6 springs. These last 2 springs, in the video you can see this comes down. There's probably, you know, there's a lot of space in between. So it's letting this drop down. It's letting the axle not necessarily, it doesn't do any hopping. It just has a lot of roll to it. And with that, you know, the shackle will pull forward. So my goal is right now is I'm going to make some more of these to go underneath this heavy overload leaf and have a couple sets of holes where I can adjust it to where it will capture this. And hopefully just kind of limits some of the drive down into the ground. I want some of it because that's good. It does good, but it drives so hard in the ground that then it unloads. Of course, the shocks didn't help any. But yeah, I'm going to try to just work with what I got, not spend a bunch of money on it right now, just to see if I can get any better. Now, as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of guys I've talked to, with what I've got, he's making some really respectable 60 foots. I think my best was a 172. As a 172.1, so it was right there. I'm real close to getting in the 160s, but he's always been real consistent. If I'm doing my part, the truck will do consistent mid to low 170 60 foots. I could spend the money and put some cow track bars on there, and they work great. There's nothing against those. I am just trying to do something different, just like I did with the engine, just like I'm doing with this 4-speed transmission. You know, run a 339, stroke 305, a granular 4-speed, a 14-bolt 3/4 ton rear end. We're not doing the normal drag racing stuff here. Yeah, we're having fun. trying different things, see if it works. If it don't work, these limiters, if they don't work, if they hold the suspension too much, I can just take that bolt out and run it like it was. It'll be fine. Maybe on down the line we'll do some more, you know, specialized suspension setup on this thing. It still may not be mainstream. I like to try different things. I like to experiment and just kind of show you guys to use your imagination, get in there, think outside the box, and make stuff work. Sometimes you can make stuff work that shouldn't work, and that's what's fun. So I've got some of this strap, I've got some bolts, and they've got spacers in there, and the rubber, that's just heater hose. So yeah, we'll get busy on measuring some stuff out and trying to get some limitation on these springs, and maybe get in the 160, 60 foots. The first thing I'm going to do is on the passenger side. If you can see, my little makeshift snubber here has a gap. And typically you actually need the passenger side preloaded a little bit on, or just barely preloaded on. If you have traction bars or cow tracks or anything like that, you want just a little bit of preload. So for whatever reason, I've measured the frame height off the ground where it's sitting right now. It's actually sitting really level side to side. But for whatever reason, and the difference in these springs, I mean, they're what, 46-year-old springs on 46-year-old bushings. That's another thing I could do on down the line, is put, you know, new bushings in, or solid bushings in this, at least solid bushings in the front. But anyways, right now I'm going to cut that out, and I've already kind of messed around and decided what I'm going to do with that. I've got a piece of 1-inch square tubing that I'm going to put in there, because I need that other ½ an inch or so to really get a good preload on that. I think that'll help this side. The other side I'm not going to mess with. It seems to be close, and then we'll work. Then I'll start measuring out for my limiters on the back. So now I need to take some measurements. I need to know how wide to make it at the bottom. About 3 inches. 3 inches to give us wide enough at the bottom. Now the top leaf, these leaves are 2.5. These leaves are a little bit narrower than the back end of this leaf, but anyhow. So that's the width we need to make. We need to make it 3 inches, and from there to there, the very minimum is 3.5. That would get this limiter pretty much right on top. I'll have to take away the distance to the center line of the bolt and everything. But 3.5 inches, that'll get that where it's kind of resting right on top. So what I'm thinking is, it'll almost be like a 2-stage. So when the axle, the front of the axle will be pretty much does what it does. This will start separating and coming down. Well, from here to here, it's going to be kind of trapped with this leaf. Now this leaf does have a little give to it. It's not like it's solid. But once this leaf and this bolt connect, this limiter connects, we still got a little bit of space back here for a little bit more separation. And then our shackle back there, with the way the spring and everything moves, we'll still have plenty of separation. We just don't need as much separation as what we have now. And like I said earlier, I'll have a bolt hole to where it's like pretty much right on here. Then I'll have another one as close as I can with as long as I have enough material in between the bolt holes, move another one up. Now I could make a wider bracket, but I don't have the material for that. Make a wider bracket where I can stagger the holes and really get a really close or shorter distances in between my adjustments. But we're not at that level now. We're just playing around. So if I could get to here, and if it's too tight, I can raise it up. But I'm thinking if I could just limit this, we're still gonna have some separation back here from this distance to back to the shackle. We're still got plenty of spring that's gonna give. So we'll still have plenty of separation, because you know, we're leaving at 6,000 RPM. There's a lot of stuff going on back here. And if you watch the videos and like slow it way down, there's a lot of time involved from the time that I let off the clutch and the drivetrain, the drive shaft starts moving, and then it moves the axle shafts, which starts moving the tires. Once the tires start moving, now the tires have a lot of give to them, because they're not super soft sidewalls, but they're soft. Once the tires start moving, then the suspension starts reacting. There's a lot of time involved into actually making the frame move. So that's what I'm trying to limit right here, is the time between the drive shaft starts turning and that motion, that energy starts transferring to the frame. We'll see if it works. It may or may not work. I don't know, but we're gonna have fun. I'm having fun with this. This is what I love to do, and I hope you guys enjoy watching me do this. Maybe just get some comic relief on how I do it, because I don't know. I'm just in my element right now, and I'm loving it. I'm dragging you guys along with me. So let's get some brackets made and get them welded on, and we'll have to wait till this weekend to see what it do. Alright, I had to take a break and do a live for our Tailgate Throwdown last night, and it was a great live. We had a lot of fun, a little bit of a celebration that, you know, 1 week left. I got called out by two different people, so that's, I think, got 3 call outs now for the Tailgate Throwdown. Jonathan Morgan, hopefully he makes it, and Nate Cheney with Blue Collar Performance YouTube channel, go check him out. And my buddy Ryan Wings called me out. Now Nate, he's wanting to run me bottle, you know, wanting me to run with the bottle. He's got an old C10 with the LS straight out of the junkyard and some nitrous on it. So he's just wanting to do a comparison, I guess. So that's gonna be fun. We got some money on that one. Ryan, he's wanting to run me on motor with his truck, old Slick Rick. That race is going to happen regardless whether he called me out or not. We're planning on it. So let me get these hangers on. I've got them done. Got to clean off the bottom of the springs, weld these puppies on, get the bolts in there, and we'll be done with this project. Now before I put the bolts in, I want to set the camera up so you can kind of see how much it moves without the bolts, and then we'll put the bolt in the lowest position and then kind of see how how much movement we still have behind the limiter. We should still have a little bit of movement. Let's just see what we got. Okay, let her down nice and easy. there's no weight on the rear suspension. And we pretty much dropped down to the second hole. There's still, I didn't show you real close, but this limiter, you can see how much it was still allowing the suspension to separate back here. And yeah, not a lot of control back here. And with the weight on it, there was probably about 3/8 of an inch gap in between this and the spring, and there's still about 1/8 of an inch. But under load, it goes ahead and pulls all the way down to that top leaf. Let's jack it back up, put our bolts in the lowest hole, and then see how much it holds it together. I'm still expecting a little bit of movement back here, but not near as much as what we got now. Alright, now there's no weight on there. It didn't travel down quite as far. As you can see, we still got some separation back here, but it'll catch on that. That should help. It may not. I don't know. We'll just have to see once we get to the track and do some testing. Alright, I'll get these wheels and tires back on. I'll probably just go through and do a good nut and bolt check on everything while I've got it up. And we'll be ready. We'll be ready for Tailgate Throwdown. Hope to see you guys there. If you can come out and join us, Newport Raceway in Newport, Arkansas. Yeah, be looking forward to the video. I'm hoping to get some video of this, some good video of the race. Shelman's not gonna be able to go, my normal camera guy. Mrs. Squarebody's gonna be busy with everything else or helping run the show, so she's not gonna be able to do much camera work. So I'll do what I can, and maybe you'll find somebody that'll help run the camera, get you some good shots and some good video of the race. I don't know if it's gonna be complete coverage, but we'll have coverage of it. So until then, y'all keep your square bodies rolling. We'll catch you later.